Pickford tune. Grandmothers and the dreams of all our great-grandmothers and the way to rise beyond the pain all lives in me. In the land of I am more than I have been. I am more than I will be. I am all that I am. Love that part. In the land of I am more than I have been. I am more than I will be. I am all that I am. This section. In the land of I am more than I have been. I am more than I will be. I am all that I am. In the land of I am more than I have been. I am more than I will be. I am all that I am. And the songs of all my great-grandmothers and the dreams of all my great-grandfathers and the way to rise beyond the pain all live. It all lives in me. In the land of I am more than I have been. I am more than I will be. I am all that I am. Let's think about that. In the land of I am more than I have been. I am more than I will be. I am all that I am. In the land of I am more than I have been. I am more than I will be. I am all that I am. In the land of I am more than I have been. I am more than I will be. I am all that I am. ain't that I had to. I used to think that I should. All the scriptures told me that I had to be good. But I love cause I want to. I love because I am free. I'm blinded by the Spirit, oh Lord. The Spirit of God is upon me. Whoa. 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 I don't need any party. I don't need any law. I want to sing with all my heart, 'cause God is the one and all. I let go of the burden. Loving God has made me free. And blinded by the Spirit, oh Lord. The Spirit of God is upon me. Whoa. 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 Welcome to Unity on the River. If you are comfortable, please stand and join the hand of the person next to you. This is surely the presence.
Let us pray. Surely the presence of God is in this place because you are here. You, the embodiment of the divine. You, the heart of God. You are God in action. You are God made visible. And we come together today to celebrate that, to honor that, and then to go forth after reminding ourselves of this deep truth, to spread love, joy, compassion, peace, wholeness into the world. So today, give thanks for your presence here. I give thanks, humble thanks, that I walk beside you on this journey of discovering the fullness of the divinity of who I am, of who we all are. And so it is, and so we let it be. Amen. You may be seated. Good morning. I'm Reverend Ogun Holder, minister here at Unity on the River, and I am standing in my truth and wholeness. What is the song you sang before? I am more than I am. And right now I am sick. Right now I am, oh, thanks, but it's just a cold or something. It's all good. It's all good. But could be allergies too, except the achiness and the scratchiness and all of that. Yeah. So when you see me guzzling my homeopathic cough syrup later in the service before I talk, Don't get any funny ideas about what the minister might be guzzling. I'm telling you up front, it's just cough syrup. Just cough syrup. It's all good. It's all good. It's all good. But these are just, as I like to say, when our body does things like this, it simply is an invitation to remember the truth of who we are, which is wholeness. So I'm remembering my wholeness. I'll talk more about this later because I'm not a fun guy to be around when I'm sick. I get whiny, I get cranky, I get all these, and it's a whole thing. But I also tend to lose focus a lot, which might be why I'm rambling all over the place right now. So I'm going to stop rambling and get on with the service and say it is so good to see you all here this morning. And as I like to say here, every Sunday, you want to see the face of God, you see the face of another. So simply turn to someone and say, God looks good today. And God looks very good today in Sparkly Mickey. Yay. Thank you for being here.
I'm not sure if I have the right mic. Do I have the right mic, Chuck? Chuck, testing, 1, 2, 3. Testing. I got another one here. Testing. Hey. We have a winner. Good morning, everybody. I'm Mickey Lucia. I'll be your facilitator today. It's great to see everybody. Good morning. Welcome to Unity on the River. And let's say hi to the streamers. Hi, streamers. Thank you for coming. Thank you for streaming and enjoying this beautiful service with us. If anybody's here for the first time, could you raise your hand? Keep your hand up. We have a flower coming around in a packet. Keep your hand up. Very nice. We are so happy to have you with us. Your presence with us it adds to our service. We have that welcome packet. You can bring that to the fellowship area. And after service, we do a little fellowship. There's a little welcome desk over there if you'd like to learn some more info. Let's keep those hands up. We've got a few folks here. That's great. Thank you for coming. That flower that you have gets you 10% off at the bookstore. If you haven't checked out our bookstore, there's some really cool finds in there. So definitely take advantage of that if you can. And thank you, like I say, thank you for being with us. Unity on the River is a center of celebration, transformation, inspiration, self-centeredness, spirit self. We kind of are self-centered. I mean, we're working on the self. We are self-centeredness. Everybody go in. Okay. Spirit-centeredness. I'm glad I caught myself. We are divine, right? If we're all self-centered, we're all happy. All right. Spirit-centeredness, just like home and hospitality. I love that one. When we did that one. It's home and hospital. Okay. Oneness and joy. Please hold these truths in your heart as we say together our mission and vision statements together. Our mission statement. We are a vibrant spiritual community that celebrates the presence in all and awakens humanity to its divinity. And our vision statement, centered in love, we joyously co-create a world of oneness, peace, and harmony. Thank you. Some brief announcements. September 7th, Eliza Goodell will be hosting a workshop, How to Keep the Magic in Big Magic. The workshop will begin at 7 p.m. There will be a meditation work party on September 9th from 9 to 11:30 a.m. That's the meditation garden. Yes. Our third annual Holistic Health and Wellness Fair will take place on September 16th from 10 to 4. And then, of course, World Day of Peace, World Day of Prayer is coming up, which will begin September 13th at 7 p.m. And then, of course, that goes for several days, right? Okay. There's more info in your inserts and online. If you haven't checked out our new website, it's really cool.
lots of information. There's an area now you can sign up for things online, which is very cool. And I think it actually goes to your Google Calendar if it reminds you of stuff, which is cool. ontheriver.org is where you'll find all that stuff on our website. Now it's time for us to greet each other in love. Handshake or a hug, depending on what you'd like. And here's where we look at each other, we hold each other's truth, and we say, Namaste. Our song, our heart opener with Maura, Love Wins.
A new tune today, but I thought it was so fitting for what's been going on, just to remind us all, no matter what, of wins. We might win a battle, we could win the race, and outrun our rival, we'll come in first place. We will lose our center in the push and the shove. Let's simply surrender and tune in to love. Love's not a contest, it's just who we are. Both light and the shadow are at home in the heart. Beyond the struggle, there's music to play and songs to be singing at the end of the day. Love wins, love wins, all is well in the end. Love wins, love wins, love wins, all is well in the end. Love wins. Love knows no boundaries, it's the light in our eye, familiar to all and universally prized. There's a world of compassion, and we're good to go. We could just quit our fighting and let love win. Love wins, love wins, all is well in the end. Love wins, love wins, love wins, all is well in the end. Love wins. When we're up against too much to ask, when we lose our resistance at last, but then we realize love's got our back. Love wins. And for everyone darkness conquers all. Love wins. Love wins. Oh, love wins. All is well, all is well, all is well in the earth. All is well. Oh, Lord, all is love wins. Love wins. All is well in the earth. All is well. Love wins. Love wins. Love wins. All is well in the air. Love wins. Love wins. Oh, love wins. Love wins. All is well in the earth. When love wins. Thank you. Thank you. I want to thank my band and my beloved choir.
I guess I could save my throat and not give a talk after that. Seriously, that's, yeah, really. You're not kidding.
Oh, that was a song from
Thank
a
you.
gift that Revo brought me back from when he went to Uni Worldwide about this songbook, and he said, "This is just a gift," and I was so grateful, and that tune was in it.
Oh,
So thank you, Revo.
you're welcome. Hi. So this week, today, continuing my series from, remember this, the Book of Joy? We started on this last week. This was written by the Dalai Lama and Desmond Tutu. As I shared last week, a few years ago, as the Dalai Lama was celebrating his birthday, his 80th birthday, Desmond Tutu, they've been longtime friends, traveled to his home in India, and, for part of this 3-day celebration, and they did some dialogues. There's them, still my favorite picture of them ever. They did some dialogues, which an author, the author or the co-writer of the book kind of compiled with them, answering that question about, why are we here? What's the purpose? And they speak of joy. And the Dalai Lama says, after much consideration, I believe the purpose of life is to find happiness. But what we want is not actual happiness. I would speak of joy. Joy subsumes happiness. Joy is the far greater thing. In Unity, we have our 12 powers you might be familiar with. Joy has often been listed as the unofficial 13th power. But it just goes to speak to that state of beingness beyond the emotions of happiness or sadness or elation that are fleeting. I forgot that this week, or over the last 2 days, and this is where being sick ties in. Because when I get sick, like I said, I am not much fun to be around. I get whiny, I'm like, I can't make a decision, nothing feels good. I'm hungry all the time because I lose my appetite, and those of you who know me pretty well knows that if I'm not eating, everything else is going downhill. So it was just started like Friday afternoon, just all this going downhill. I am not going to say it was connected to the fact that my mother left Friday afternoon. They may not, she's like, yeah, that was it! That was it! I've been trying so hard to keep it together, during the week that it was let down, who knows? Or it was maybe just a virus. Those are real too. Viruses happen. I'm not, like I said, we are meaning-making machines. I'm not going to try to make too much meaning out of why. Just simply, what's the invitation as I am sick? It's remember that I'm whole, declare my wholeness, and continue to stand in the truth of who I am. It's harder when you're in pain, obviously. It is. And I kind of forgot that yesterday. when I had an interaction with someone I know pretty well on Facebook. And I'll preface this by saying this guy that I had this interaction with, I know him pretty well, met him while I was in seminary at Unity. You know, we have different, maybe political, philosophical views, but I'll tell you why that's a good thing later on. But every once in a while, I'll post stuff and he will challenge me with a question about it, you know. And not very often, usually, you know, when stuff like that comes up, I ignore it. But I like his questions. His questions tend to push me into a deeper sense of clarity and understanding about where I stand. So I often respond. So during this week, I was posting a lot about what's been on people's minds since the incident in Charlottesville last week, which was about statues and taking down statues from the Confederacy. And people have been going back and forth on this a lot. And just so you know, I'm an advocate of taking those statues down. That's just my opinion here. I don't believe they need to be destroyed. I believe they need to be like put in a museum or something because they do represent a part of Americans' history that we don't need to forget. We don't need to revere it. We don't need to honor it, which is what, in my opinion, I believe keeping those statues up does. But they don't need to be destroyed because we need to remember. Because if we don't have reminders of the dark parts of our history collectively as a people, if we don't have reminders of those times, we might find ourselves going back to it. We have memorials to all the great wars that were fought, World War I, World War II, Vietnam. We have those memorials, and they serve as reminders, I think, that tend to slow down the powers that be from jumping into another war. So that's the best we can hope for. So that's just where I am. But I posted this article from The Atlantic, and I'm not going to read the whole article, it's too long, but the title is, Why I Changed My Mind About Confederate Monuments, How Empty Pedestals Can Offer the Same Lessons About Racism and War That the Statues Do. Now the author, his name is Kevin Levin, he taught high school history in Charlottesville for years. And he once held the belief that as a historian and as an educator, these statues should remain up to teach us the lessons. But he's recently changed his mind. And he says this, the removal of the Confederate monuments across the country will not prevent me from doing my job as a history educator and a public historian. Even empty pedestals offer important lessons that demand to be told. In fact, the statue's removal from positions of alleged moral authority is arguably the most important chapter in their long and controversial history. Let me read that last sentence again. The statue's removal from positions of alleged moral authority is arguably the most important chapter in their long and controversial history. Let that sink in for a second. They were there for a reason. Perhaps they have served their time. And now in the cycle of life for everything, perhaps it's time to remove them. So I posted this, and my friend, who I will just use his initials, KB, but you know, it's on Facebook, you can go look him up. In a nice way, don't harass the dude, he's my friend. So he says, just curious, Martin Luther King Jr. said he opposed gay marriage. Shall we take his statues down? Yeah, so he asked that question, and because I was all hopped up on Advil, I went to a place of anger and righteous indignation. Now, I gotta say, on Facebook, you can leave comments with emoticons. You have the heart, the like, you've got the sad face. I went straight to the angry one. Like, yeah. And I started typing a nice, long response. And about 3/4 of the way through it, I was like, wait a minute. And so while I'm writing this response, also going on in my mind is the fact that it's Saturday and I still haven't finished my talk. Prepping my talk because I was, a long week and taking my mom places and, I was sick most of Friday, so I called Friday a wash, and I'm like, I'm going to do this Saturday. And Saturday I woke up hoping I'd have enough energy to go down to Boston in March. I was like, I can't do that. I'm just all worn out, and So this happened. I was like, I don't got time for this. I got to do a talk, and I got to plan my talk on the Book of Joy. And I'm like... And then it hit me. I was here in this moment of reacting, because a button within me was pushed. And I had to remember, dude, like, you're preaching on the topic. Why? Like, remember what you tell them. Like, go back and listen to your own talk. It might help you in this situation. So here's what I wrote. Because I did believe it needed a response. One, maybe a little more measured, okay? So my response was, there's a difference between having a discriminatory belief and attempting to secede from a country to preserve the subjugation of a race deemed to be inferior. Martin Luther King may have opposed gay marriage, but did he say people who were gay were inferior? Did he go to war in opposition of gay marriage? Did he seek to enslave people who are gay? And I left it at that. I was like, that's pretty good. Threw back some questions at him for deeper consideration. I feel good about that. Then later, he responded again. He said, so do you support ISIS destroying statues that were constructed by cultures that thought other cultures were inferior? And shall we remove statues of Washington and Jefferson because they owned slaves? I'm just wondering where we draw the line. Back to the angry emoticon. That's like, come on, man. You're missing, and my response to this started, you are missing the damn point. Like, I started typing this. I was like, oh yeah, Book of Joy. Book of Joy. Wheel it back a little bit. So here's my response. We draw the line when statues of Confederate generals are being used to revere war fought for the right to own other people. We draw the line when white nationalists, KKK, neo-Nazis look to those individuals as inspiration for their cause to declare whites a superior race. Yes, Washington and Jefferson owned slaves, but no one is looking to them as leaders of rebellion to maintain a culture of oppression. And to that point, I do not support ISIS destroying statues from ancient Nineveh because no one is trying to bring back Babylonian ideology. And I don't think the Confederate statues need to be destroyed. They need to be put in museums. So that was my response to that. I'm awaiting his rebuttal. I'm sure one will come. It's an interesting time we find ourselves in. And I think it's a great time as well. I think it's a time where the questions of who we are as a country, who we are as our individual ethnicities and races, are coming to face with each other. I think it's an important time that we're being asked to declare who we really are. When I was watching some of the scenes from the marches in Boston yesterday, one of the big placard signs was, whose side are you on? And for me, it's less about sides. For me, it's about who do you want to be in this world? Who do you want to be? And when we get clear about who we want to be, yes, will it invite us to be a voice for something, to go march, to be a stand? Perhaps you decide if that's yours to do. But let's be clear, this time that we're in right now is an invitation to ask ourselves, who do we want to be? First as individuals, then as a nation. And it's not there are no simple answers here. There are no simple answers. And let me back that up. Yes, there are simple answers, but how we get to the point as a nation together, there will always be a discussion about that. There will always be different sides about that, which is a good thing, which is why I love democracy, because it invites to the table all the voices who I truly believe in my heart of hearts, and call me an idealistic optimist, but I truly believe when we look at our politics, for the most part, we all want the same thing. We just disagree about how we get there. That took me back to something these fine gentlemen said in their book. One of the things they stated was that joy is our essential nature. But sometimes if we have trouble getting in touch with it, we can cultivate it like we do any other skill that we do. We can practice the elements of joy in order to cultivate being in a joyful nature. And after I had this Facebook interaction, I went to do some hard cultivation of, or practicing of, how do we get back into that joy place. And the question that I love here is, this is what Desmond Tutu says. You've transmuted what would have been totally negative into goodness, because you have not said, well, how can I be happy? You said, how can I help to spread compassion and love? How can I help to spread compassion and love? And I think when we focus on this, when this is truly the question that drives us, no matter where we stand on the political spectrum, no matter how old we are, no matter our gender, no matter our orientation, no matter what, when we get guided by that question, how can I help to spread compassion and love? That's going to keep us grounded in our sense of joy. Because when we do spread compassion, when we do spread love, when we see the effect that it takes hold on other people and how it transforms ourselves and the world, we're going to continue asking this. I don't think there's any of us who have felt bad after helping someone. I don't think there's any of us that felt bad after walking in love beside someone. It's what we're called to do. And research supports this. There's a psychologist, Sonia, I'm going to butcher her last name, Lubomirsky. Let's go with that. She's the author of a book called The How of Happiness. The How of Happiness. And she says this. Back up. Too soon. She says, only 50% of our happiness is determined by factors like our genes or temperament. You know, some of us are just like naturally in a good mood, regardless of what's going on. We're always the glass is half empty kind of people. And some of us, regardless of our best intentions, are like the glass is half empty kind of people. And then there's more of us that are like, why is there water, not wine in that glass? So, she said only 50% of our happiness is determined by factors like genes or temperament. The other 50% is a combination of outside circumstances over which we have limited control, but then our attitudes and our actions over which we do have great control. So this is what she says. The three factors that seem to have the greatest influence on increasing our happiness are the ability to reframe our situation more positively, our ability to experience gratitude, and this is the most important one, I think, the last one, our choice to be kind and generous. Our choice to be kind and generous. Now, she's not writing like a nice feel-good spiritual book and just saying that. This is a research scientist who's interviewed thousands and thousands of people, and this is what the research has shown. These are the three things that influence how we feel happy in this world. The choice to be kind and generous. Every opportunity that is laid before us is an opportunity to be kind and generous. It's up to us if to choose it or not. And when I read the book of joy, these are kind of the same three foundational pillars of joy that the Dalai Lama and Desmond Tutu talk about. Especially that last one, the choice to be kind and generous. The first one is good too. Desmond Tutu asked the Dalai Lama about, I think I mentioned this last week, how are you unhappy that you've been exiled from your home? How are you not more unhappy you've been exiled from your home for this long? And one of his responses was actually interesting. He says, I've learned to appreciate the fact that I am not in Tibet, cloistered away in some like palace. He says, because I've been exiled, I've gotten the opportunity to travel the world and speak to people and meet people and share my message. That would not have happened if I was stuck in some palace in Tibet. So if he can reframe that situation, that's our gift too. Again, That's our third basic principle. Okay? And it's not just this Pollyanna idea of, ooh, I'm just going to see the good. No. It's truly inviting ourselves to know that it's an opportunity in front of us, no matter what it is, to be the good. And that brings me to a real-life example. A real-life example. This is Imani. You may or may not have heard of her, but when there were protests recently, and I think this might have been from Charlottesville, but there were some protests, and there were these Trump supporters who were trying to get to their car, and the counter-protesters were surrounding them and yelling at them and screaming at them and spitting on them. And she was part of the counter-protest, and she came up to one of them and said, why are you here? And one of the guys says, I legitimately thought this was just a rally about free speech when I realized that all these white nationalists and neo-Nazis were turning up. He says, I decided to leave because this is not what I'm about. And I'm just trying to get to my car. And she said, okay, follow me. And she led them through the crowd. She pushed people out of the way, her fellow counter-protesters, and escorted the Trump supporters to their car. And this is what she said. She said, I couldn't think of a better way to counter much of the hate that's bubbled to the surface in America than helping people with whom I disagree. I don't believe in this right-wing narrative of the alt-left and how we are crazed and looking to get so violent. What better way to show them that they are wrong? In that moment, she chose to be kind, to be generous, to put herself at risk as well. To be that visible presence of this is what compassion looks like. This is what kindness looks like. And while I may not agree with you, it doesn't mean that you are not deserving of safety as well. Yes. And that's what she represented. So I followed her. I followed her model. And this morning, as I am, again, finishing up the last dregs of my talk, because I didn't stumble across her story, actually, till this morning. Part of what I do every morning when I wake up on Sunday to give a talk is, one of the first things I do is I check the news, just to see what may or may not have happened overnight so that I can speak about it here on Sunday, because I believe that's part of the responsibility that I have as a minister. So I was scrolling through and I saw this article and I was like, ooh, that's good, I gotta put that in. And so I was reviewing her article, and so I finished her article, I put the thing in my talk, I was like, all right, talk is done. And it's 8:20, plenty of time. And then I said, let me check my Facebook page one more time to see if that dude responded. Seriously, man. So he hadn't. But there was another response further down from someone else who said, I blocked him because I wanted to hear what you had to say without any kind of pollution, is what someone said. Now, had I not just read her story, I'm going to let that go. But I responded to that person. I said, well, that's one way to go. But consider this. Consider the fact that I am never going to block him because his questions, his points of view, him letting me know that there are other people out there who don't think exactly as I do, again, is an invitation for me to get clear about who I am. Is an invitation for me to realize that in kindness and compassion, I get to continue a dialogue with other people who may not share my exact point of view. And I know this guy. He wants peace as much as I do. As much as I do. We just don't agree all the time on how to get there. So for me, I'm going to continue in dialogue with him and anyone else who doesn't share my exact view. Because you know what? That's how we're going to get progress. That's how we're going to get to a place where all voices are heard. That's how we're going to get to a place of the spiritual oneness we're talking about becoming real world oneness. We got to listen to each other. We got to find the middle ground. We got to be clear about what's okay and what's acceptable. But again, kindness and compassion. Kindness and compassion and generosity. That's what leads the way. So this is my Imani. She's my hero for the week. She's my hero for the week. And I'm going to invite you all to take a page from her book. Be kind, be generous, be compassionate, be clear about who you are and what you stand for. But if you're going to be a stand for love, then you got to be in love. If you're going to want to be a stand for peace, then you got to be in peace and find some way to connect with those who may not share your point of view. Kindness, compassion, generosity. Let's meditate on this a little while, because I can't say any more words. So I invite you to take a deep breath. Thank you. If you're comfortable closing your eyes, planting both feet on the floor. And for a moment, just acknowledge any sense of discomfort and anxiety and anger or dismay that you may have been feeling this past week, this past month, this past year. Maybe acknowledge any fears that may have arisen as you saw the scenes of violence or seen pictures of those who would promote a message of hate and discrimination. And what we are called to do, as Archbishop Desmond Tutu so wisely said, we need to transmit, transmute, transform these feelings, this energy. Transform it back to a place of love. To an energy of belonging, an energy of connection, an energy of compassion. In our clarity that there's no place for hatred or bigotry or discrimination or separateness. We're also clear that the only answer is love. The only winner is love. Each and every one of us, it's God's love made visible. Each of us is God's love in action. So the only question we need to ask ourselves is, how am I to be the face of love today? How am I to be love in action today? How am I to be the words of love today? How am I to be loved today? How am I to be love today? So I invite you into the silence with this question and into every day this week, every week this month, every month this year and beyond. How am I to be loved today? Let's take this in for a few moments in the silence. And as we ask ourselves, how are we to be the face of love? We declare it. We affirm, I am love in action. I am love in action. And we hold that intention for all these names in this prayer box. All the people, all the circumstances. We hold that they too remember that they are love in action, that everything is an invitation to be love, to show up as love, to experience love. And should you hold that intention for anyone else, invite you to say their name out loud now. And in declaring their names, we too see them as the embodiment of love. We see them as God's love made real. And we connect love to love, heart to heart, and trust that all is well. And trusting in the truth, as we sang earlier, that love wins. Love wins. And so it is.
When we bridge, we get to stand on holy ground. Thanks for that, Rev. It was awesome. We are standing on holy ground. We are standing on holy ground. Spirit abides when love abounds. We're standing on holy ground. We are standing on holy ground. We are standing on holy ground. Spirit abides where love abounds. We're standing on holy ground. We are standing on holy ground. standing on holy ground. Spirit abides where love abounds. We're standing on holy ground. Join us, folks, if you can. We are standing on holy ground. We are standing on holy ground. Spirit abides where love abounds. We're standing on holy ground. We are standing on holy ground. We are standing on holy ground. Spirit abides where love abounds. We're standing on holy ground. Before we move to the offertory, I'd really like to thank Chuck Walker in the back for stepping in on the sound. It's really great to have Chuck back. And when I say a big thank you to the band, that's Keith Bickford on the guitar, Stevie Chigueras on the backbeat of my band on the drums, Mike Bruin on the bass, my ever faithful partner in music for 10 years now, Alex Valenti. And the choir, who forever gets my back. I'm going to say their names, so just raise your hand. This is Pat, Judy, Sherry, Laurie, Wayne, Lisa, Holly, and Brad.
Thanks, Maura. Thank you. Hey, Chuck. Thank you again. Am I on? Okay, good. So thank you so much, Reverend Ogun. Great message, as always. It's now that time that we start to prepare our tithes and offerings, and as we do that, let's also acknowledge that we have prayer chaplains amongst us that can pray with you right after service. If you are able, please stand. These folks are here right after service to pray with you, whether you have whatever type of prayer, whatever, if it's gratitude or if you need help with something, if you need a reminder of your own divinity, they're here to sit with you right after service. Thank you. We also have a ministry here, a home and hospital ministry. Is anybody here from the home and hospital ministry? These folks will come, thank you. And if you have somebody at home, maybe bedridden or just not able to get out, or in the hospital, they need a prayer, these folks can come and do that as well. So as we put together our tithes and offerings, let's affirm them with our tithes and offerings affirmation together. Divine love as me blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive.
Alex is going to treat us to a tune, In My Life.
think about things in my life. I love you more.
Thank you. Yeah, love more, love more. I invite you to settle into your hearts in that place of gratitude and let us give thanks for these gifts, these tithes and offerings, whether it be here, coming in from online, from our Absolute Abundance class. These are reflections of the flow of abundance that we truly are. As a spiritual community, we tithe on these tithes, giving back to the Amesbury community, to the Wider Unity movement, and continuing the flow of abundance. So we give thanks, and so it is. Amen. Just a couple other things to bring to your awareness. September 11th is the deadline to register for the Eastern Region Conference. It's going to be happening in Hampton, so get online, Eastern Region, unityeasternregion.org for more information about that. And also on September 3rd, we're going to be having something we call Conscious Conversations. Some of you might remember this, but every other year we're going to come together as a community and kind of in small groups led by prayer chaplains, kind of just have a shared a dialogue about what you, the community, want to see happen in your community. One of the things that came out of this 2 years ago was the meditation garden. And, you know, there was a lot of energy behind that. Someone stepped forward, Lisa Galan and now Mary Howard stepped forward to be in leadership to make sure that happened. And many, many hands helped to make that happen. So the Conversations is that. We want your ideas, we want your inspiration. And then as the board, we move forward with the thoughts of, you know, what's really speaking to this community to come into place. So that'll happen after church, September 3rd. Mark your calendars. Talking about kindness and generosity, here's an invitation and opportunity for you. We still need some folks to help make meals for the monks who are going to be visiting us in a few weeks. It's not that far away. As you know, the monks are coming to build a sand mandala, help bless our garden. They're going to be here for World Day of Prayer that week. And they need some food. That's part of our agreement. We get to feed them. So all we need people to do is sign up to just make one dish, one meal. You can make more if you want, but if you just want to make a meal to feed some monks, there's a sign-up sheet in the Spiritual Resource Center. We also need some folks to think about becoming hosts or facilitators for our Adventures in Faith series. Every fall, we study a book together in small groups in people's homes. 2 years ago, it was Daring Greatly. Last year, it was Big Magic. I won't tell you what this one is yet. But what we do need are people who are willing to host a group in their home. And if you don't want to facilitate a group, we need some people who want to facilitate groups as well, lead the discussion. You can be either or you can be both. You can host a group in your home and facilitate the group, either or both. So we have some sign-ups for that as well, if you're willing to think about that. It's going to start the second Sunday in October, I believe, and it's going to be about 5 weeks long. So just think about it. You can always call the office if you want more details about the dates. What am I forgetting? What?
The camp for the men and the women's.
Oh yeah, women's and men's retreats are coming up. Thank you, Malik. The women's retreat, when is that, Tina? Yeah. I'm putting her on the spot. Listen, all this information is online, but the women's retreat especially, we need your deposits now. There's limited space for that. And the men's retreat is happening at the YMCA camp the following weekend. Those are early October, aren't they?
Yes.
Yeah, I think the women's retreat's the first weekend in October. The men's is the second weekend in October. All this stuff's online somewhere. Calendar on our website. I can think. So please mark your calendars for these important events. And really consider helping us out with making the food for the monks. And the gala. Oh, yeah. We have our gala coming up. Every year it's going to be November. When's it? 11. November 11th, our annual gratitude gala, where we get to party down in celebration for who we are for a wonderful year. Carol, stand in the back there. So Carol is our gala coordinator, and she needs some help. She needs some folks to help her out. Again, most of the hard work's already been done, okay? But many hands make work light. If you want to help her out, especially if you're good at either marketing or getting people involved in things, this is a great way to serve. Remember, this is how we make a difference in the world, kindness and generosity. So we could use some generosity of service right about now. So speak to Carol about that. And also start thinking about stuff you might want to contribute to auction off at the fundraising gala. Could be experiences, could be some wonderful things you have, could be that painting that's been in your family for like 200 years that you don't think is worth anything. Someone buys it for $20, then it turns out it's a masterpiece worth $3 million. You know, stuff like that. Talk to Carol. All right, I think I'm done now. Mickey.
Thank you. And now it's time to thank everyone that makes this service happen. Lots of folks, and the circle's getting bigger, which is great. Thank you all. Special thank you to some angels this week. David, Lucy, Heather, Wayne, the anonymous person from AA. Love that. Lauren, Mary, Phyllis, Peter, in October. Also, we like to highlight a few teams every week. This week's teams that we'd like to thank are the greeting team, the Sunday service team, and the altar team for the beautiful flowers and such. Board members, if you're here, could you please stand? Thank you, board members, for your service, as always. Big job, very big job. Also, thank you to those who make the Wednesday night service happen. Don't forget, you can always reconnect on Wednesday evening. Sometimes you get out in the world and you need a little reconnection by Wednesday. So this Wednesday, Reverend Annie Houghton will be with us. And of course, as always, Meg Rain with her beautiful music. So now it's time for one more thing, and then, right?
Yeah, one more thing.
I'm going to stay up.
As we are thanking people and thanking angels, there is a special angel I want to thank today. This gentleman is probably one of the longest running volunteers in our community. He was part of, my understanding, the original group that started this church. And for the last 20 years, count them, 20 years, on Sunday mornings, he's been helping count or tithe and love offerings during service or at the end of service. He's been serving this community for 20 years, and he only recently stepped down from his role, and we thought it would be proper to honor him for the service that he's given to this community, not just in action, but in heart, in spirit, in the fullness of who he is. So I'd like to ask Ed Woodman, come on up. Come on, Ed. And Annika, you come too. Come on, my friend. Thank you. So this is just a little plaque that says, in recognition of 20 years of sacred service. You're an inspiration to us all, and this community is here because of you. Anything you want to say to the folks?
No.
Okay then. I respect that. Also in here is, I believe, a gift certificate to a restaurant for you and your wife, because I understand just recently you celebrated a 50 years of marital bliss, yeah? 50 years. So not just a model of service, but a model of love. Thank you very much, Ed. We appreciate you.
And you all can be here in 50 years, standing on this altar. 49 years and counting. Well, thank you. We'll get you a plaque, right, Ogun? We'll be like this, but we'll get you a plaque. All right. So let's have some celebration music. All right.
This is Reach Into the Love. Your part goes, love, love, breath, love. Take another breath, love. But I really want that today, all right? Just like, don't worry about how it sounds. Just like go for it for the vibe, okay? It'll be great. There's love, love, love. You can do anyone. I hear the talking inside my head. I don't try to stop it. I'm glad when I'm aware. And I hear the ringing. I answer the call. Through lots of static is a voice so small, but it's saying, reach into the love. Another way to be. Follow the light and trust your lead. Reach into the love, even when you feel afraid. Follow the light when you feel you lost your way. Reach in, here it is. Love, love. Reach into the 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 love. Who am I really? I'm more than a name, but all experience, it still would not be who I am. And the me who sees me and watches a slide of the light that I choose to put into the light. Reach into the love, another way to be. Follow the light and trust your lead. Reach into the love, even when you feel afraid. Follow the light when I feel I lost my way. Reach into the love, love. Reach into the love, love. Reach into the love. Open up my heart and the pain may flow. But open up my heart and the pain lets go. Reach into the love, love. Reach into the love, love. Reach into the love, reach into the love, love. Reach into the, reach into the, reach into the love. Woo! Great job, you guys. Thank you so much. That was really fun.
All right, let's bring in the kids.
Good morning. So we talked about prayer flags today because we're preparing the prayer flags for the Tibetan monks that are coming. So we talked about how when they blow in the wind, they send out compassion and love, and how it goes from our community out into extension. So that was fun. And I just want you to know, there's been an addition to the meditation garden. There is a limo and an airplane and a castle for our queen and king. So please visit.
Cool beans. Let us stand. Take the hand of our neighbor, hold the truth for these children, for ourselves, for the entire world. There is peace, and it begins with us.